All right, let's just jump right into one of the biggest questions we all ask ourselves, right? How do we find meaning in a world that, well, often feels like it doesn't have any? It's a huge one. And today, we're going to dive deep into a philosophy that tackles this head on: the powerful, sometimes challenging, but ultimately freeing ideas of existentialism.
So let's kick things off with a real fundamental question, something that gets to the heart of everything. Were you born with a purpose already baked in? Some specific role you were just meant to play? For a long, long time, most of philosophy would have told you, yep, absolutely.
See, on one side of the coin, you've got this idea called essentialism. It's the belief that your essence, your whole purpose, your nature, it's all decided before you even show up. Kind of like a knife, right? The whole point of a knife is to cut, and that's decided way before the metal is even forged. But existentialism comes along and just flips that whole script. It says, nope, existence precedes essence. You're born first. You just exist. And then it's up to you. Through everything you do, every choice you make, you're the one who creates your own purpose, your own essence. Okay, so if there's no big cosmic plan for us, no instruction manual, that leaves us facing a pretty huge challenge, right? And this is where we get to a core idea in existentialism: confronting what they call the absurd. Now, the key thing to get here is that the absurd isn't just saying the world is meaningless. No, it's more specific. It's about the clash. It's this deep, nagging conflict between our very human need to find meaning and value in life and a universe that just stares back, totally silent and indifferent. It's that tension, that friction, that's the absurd. The philosopher Albert Camus put it beautifully. He called it a divorce between us and our lives. Imagine being an actor on a stage, and you suddenly realize you don't know the lines, you don't recognize the set, you're on the wrong play entirely. That feeling of total dislocation, that is the feeling of absurdity. And to really help us understand this struggle, Camus brings up an old friend from Greek mythology, Sisyphus. You might know the story. This poor guy was cursed by the gods for all eternity to do one thing: push a massive boulder up a hill only to have it roll right back down again every single time. So when you're faced with a struggle that feels that pointless, that repetitive, it's really easy to just fall into despair, isn't it? And this brings us to what Camus called a huge temptation: the temptation of nothingness. Camus saw people responding in a couple of common, but he thought flawed ways. First, there's literally just giving up, physical suicide. He saw this as an escape, not a real answer. But the second one is a bit more sneaky. He called it philosophical suicide. This is when we take a leap of faith into some comforting belief system, maybe a religion, maybe a strict ideology, that just hands us all the answers. It lets us pretend the absurd isn't there. But for Camus, that was just, well, not being honest with ourselves. And this is a really, really important point, because so many people get existentialism confused with nihilism, but they're practically opposites. Nihilism looks at a meaningless universe and says, well, that's it then. Nothing matters, I give up. Existentialism looks at that same universe and says, okay, there's no built-in meaning, so that means I'm free to create my own. It's a call to action, not surrender. So you see, existentialism, from its very beginnings with thinkers like Soren Kierkegaard all the way to Camus, it's not some gloomy, depressing philosophy. Not at all. It's a call to arms. It is not about giving up. It's about showing up to your own life with your eyes wide open, ready to get to work creating meaning. So, how do we actually do that? I mean, how are we supposed to live a real, authentic life when we know the world is absurd? Well, Camus gives us this amazing three-part recipe: revolt, freedom, and passion. First up is revolt. This isn't about picking up a weapon. It's about a constant, conscious refusal to give in to that feeling of meaninglessness. You live in spite of it. Then you have freedom. This is about fully embracing the fact that there are no rules written in the stars for you. You are completely free to live how you want. And finally, passion. This means diving in headfirst, experiencing as much as you can, living with intensity, and squeezing every drop out of every moment. And this brings us right back to Sisyphus and his boulder. Camus ends his famous essay with one of the most incredible lines in all of philosophy. He says we have to imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Not in spite of his fate, but because of it. Think about that moment when he's walking back down the hill. He knows the rock is waiting. He is fully aware of how absurd his situation is, but he makes the choice to turn around and push it again. In that conscious choice, he finds his freedom. His meaning isn't in getting the rock to the top. The meaning is the struggle itself. So if we boil it all down, what's the core idea? It's this: radical freedom. It means you're not defined by your past. You're not defined by what society expects of you. You're not defined by some cosmic plan. No, you are completely, totally, radically free to decide who you are. But there's always a but, right? And this one is huge. With that absolute freedom comes an equally massive burden: absolute responsibility. If you are the only one writing the story of your life, then every single word, every single choice is on you, and you alone. You can see how this freedom is kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, on the one hand, how amazing is that? You get to invent your own values, create your own moral compass. But on the other hand, it can be absolutely terrifying. If there's no rule book, no guide, how do you ever know if you're making the right choice? That feeling, that dizziness of infinite possibility and responsibility, that's what the existentialists called angst, or anxiety. So let's recap. We've stared the absurd in the face, we've said no thanks to the easy answers, and we've embraced our radical freedom. So where does that leave us? What's the whole point? It's all about one thing: creating your own meaning and living a life of authenticity. Authenticity really is the name of the game here. It just means living honestly. It means making your choices with the full conscious awareness that you are the one making them. The opposite of this is what the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre called bad faith. That's when we pretend we don't have a choice, when we act like we're just objects being pushed around. It's the subtle but huge difference between saying, I have to go to work, and recognizing, I am choosing to go to work. Look, at the end of the day, this isn't just some dusty old academic theory. It's a way of living. It's about looking at all the tough stuff, the anxiety, the fact that we're not here forever, and facing it without flinching. Facing it not with comforting illusions, but with raw honesty, a rebellious spirit, and a deep, passionate commitment to living as fully as we possibly can. And that really is the heart of it. Existentialism doesn't hand you a nice, neat set of answers. Instead, it gives you a question. A huge one. It drops the full weight and wonder of your own existence right into your lap, and it asks you, since you are free, since there's no script to follow, who are you going to become?